What's up everybody, hope you all are doing well. This is going to be a pretty unique video as I'm going to be combining what is actually a layout update with also some real life rail fanning. So this layout depicts roughly the present state of the Florida East Coast Railway's Commerce Park industrial area near Miami International Airport at the south end of Hialeah Yard. It's exclusively under yard limits and ties to the old Kendall branch which used to connect with the original main line at US 1 in South Miami. But the remnants of it are pretty much a web of industrial leads. And what's interesting is even though presently this area can still provide some active railroading, it is really a mere shell of its former self. As the Google Maps shown in the background will compare, you'll see what is there now and what was there before, when the park was originally laid out in the early 70s. Of the remaining active customers, all of which you will see in this video in real life, I would like to kind of highlight what they do, who they are, etc. So starting from the north, we have a team track, which I only put one center beam on there. The team track handles cars for Raven Environmental, also a lumber customer in Doral, and sometimes a plastics distributor. But also recently they've taken up a huge contract for ferrous processing and trading, so that's what those ZBBX guns are for. It's a really cool contract, adds extra modeling potential and a lot of fun to this general area. Over here, the space is reserved for Omni Transloading and Logistics, one of FEC's major warehousing partners on the entire system. Alright, we're here at Omni Transloading. So right at this moment, Omni doesn't have any cars, but lately they've received box cars of beer, though they can pretty much receive anything. They have accommodations to transload pretty much any commodity that travels with this open lot on the right. All the necessary ramps and loading docks in the facility. This used to be Alpino's until about 2017 when the ownership changed. Their main commodity in Miami is handling beer to local distributors, such as Gold Coast Beverage and I believe Eagle Brands as well. They get typically 50-foot box cars just like the rail box that is on spot. They also get potatoes shipped in Union Pacific reefers. They used to get Cryotrans cars, and they get the occasional building materials cars and flat cars. And what's unique about this operation is not only what Lance Minheim is covering about transloading operations in warehouses that you can have multiple shippers inside the same box structure, but also not only we have the doors, but a paved lot where you can use a forklift to offload from like flat cars and whatnot.
And here's an example of one of these beer runs. FEC Job 10 switching Omni Transloading and Logistics. Beer fans will love this one. But first, FEC GP40-2 number 435 has to pull into the industry to grab the empties, thereby making space to spot the loads. These cars run a fairly routine contract from Mexico all the way to the United States via Ferromex, Union Pacific, and CSX before being handed off to the FEC at Bowden Yard. This shorter cut of Union Pacific and Railbox boxcars looks almost exactly like what the Union Pacific trains running the southern part of Texas would look like. My recent trips to Texas featured many of these catches on the Glidden and Del Rio subs. And from this point on, the Job 10 crew will spot the individual loads with a little spacing in between the cars to match the door spacing at Omni's warehouse. A very tedious process. Let's continue our tour of the park looking at tracks past and present.
And then on the other side is a switchback side that used to go to the entire park. There used to be customers down that way, but the only customer left is a gypsum distributor called Banner Supply, and they get switched maybe once a month or so. They will, what the train will do is they will take the cars that way, clear that switch over there, and then come back and cross the tracks back there. And they will take another spur back into the industry and pick up or drop off the cars. This is the exact point that the Banner Supply switch jobs will pull up to before going down the lead that goes to it. You can see kind of the track layout here, and it's a southbound trailing point switch. You might recognize the other side from my circus train video. I used to be filming the last circus train pull when the unfortunate derailment happened with engine 714. It was a pretty cool day. And you can also see remnants of what used to be the real busy Commerce Park switching area. You can see that the tracks went that way, and they even stored old private cars there at one time that were in very bad shape, and they got pulled a couple years ago. Cool place to model southbound, northbound trailing point switches, Florida scenery, Florida industrial scenery, voodoo and palmettos. You got everything here.
Yeah, everything alright, except for an actual train to show for it, but the opportunity came quite later. Here is Job 10 taking one USG load to Banner Supply. And coincidentally, the tight double-track curve leading to Banner goes right under the flight path for runway 8 left at Miami International Airport.
This is Banner Supply's lead, at least. Banner's all the way on the other side of this spur behind the USA Tile and Marble building to the left, and to the right is a mixed-use warehouse that is currently on lease to Amazon, hence probably no rail traffic for a little while, but I think they're keeping the rails around just in case, because we know Amazon, I think they had to rent this place out, probably account of surge in ordering demand, so they need extra fulfillment centers. And that's probably what it's for. And of course, I had to kind of mimic and recreate the Banner Supply switch on the lead to Banner. So I have this here with the 436. The crossings here are manually activated, and there are also some chain link gates that they have to open and close to gain access to this spur.
431, which did cut off that single USG load before making the curve here, is going to be grabbing 2 empty center beam flats at banner supply, opening another set of gates to access these cars. The cars are then checked to make sure there are no loose cables or nothing. Any defects from release will require banner to pay extra surcharges to FEC and ultimately CSX. And now it's time for them to spot that single USG sheetrock load that had been waiting there for what seems like forever. Now, this may be just one customer on a single switching lead, but as you can see, it's all these little details and little nuances in the switching operation that make things very time consuming, very fast, but in turn, make for a very fun model railroad operation. I know. So since I figured out video rendering much better in Adobe Premiere, I decided to bring back this clip from May of 2020, the first time I caught Banner getting switched with engine 436 putting on another show. Back then, things were a little slower, so this was a one-sided switching move. They only pulled those center beams and did not spot anything at the time. Now this is the reason why they do dictate that no more than 2 cars go on this portion of Commerce Park at all. It seems like they don't really want to activate the crossing here at 71st Avenue. And the final step is, of course, shoving it back onto the main line across 25th Street. Since Banner is the only south trailing point switch left in the Commerce Park area, it is usually worked on its own, and any other customers that are north trailing will be worked separately, though usually by the same yard crew. The mainline and pocket track offer runaround space in case they need to switch ends.
So in real life, the FEC typically does not like to run more than 2 cars on the swing here in the switchback lead. And I make it a little bit more challenging in HO scale, only allowing 1 center beam to move at a time. So as you can see, the engine and the center beam will barely clear the distance between the switch point back to the main and the end of the track. When the Commerce Park layout was conceived in early 2021, Banner was an infrequent customer. So using the space constraints to squeeze it in this tight corner was not that much of an issue. I don't think I'll be walking it back that much. Banner does not get cars every single day, and having 1 car to switch does make for a fun model railroad operation. So these are some of the Commerce Park rails that I was talking about a little bit earlier. They used to go to a couple warehouses here. Came from the exact stem where we see the Banner jobs going, and they were northbound trailing points. Imagine the pain in the neck it must have been to switch these. But these rails were removed in like the 90s, so it's really amazing that some of these made it to 2021. Cool deal, extra modeling detail. Nice. It's kind of regretful that there are no trains on this stretch of track anymore. That would be such a sick scene to shoot. And you also got this side here. Latest I've seen anything here was probably back in like 03, 04. There were tankers spotted at the customer at the very end of the spur. And this is, I believe, 25th place or something. You can see the old Commerce Park line curved around 25th Street. That's a spot back in the day. My parents did a lot of USPS. On the way to the post office, I would see an engine parked where those Australian pines are, which is pretty cool. I don't know if they had any business on this line at that time. It was like 2002, 2003. Never really saw cars, but maybe there were occasional spots that the FEC attended to. But at least the rails still stand here, kind of giving us an active reminder of the line that once was. And there's plenty of FEC ballast still intact on the right-of-way here. And this over here is the newest section of the layout, Quality Container, a relatively new customer and one of the biggest lifesavers for FEC operations in the Commerce Park area. They've taken about 1,900 feet of intermodal max and also occasionally share space with other team tracking customers. Over the summer of 2022, Happy Floors contracted some space at the very end of the lead, at the very tail of this layout, to transload boxcars with imported flooring. Now, it is predominantly intermodal going in and out to and from the Port of Miami. However, it is possible that some long-distance contracts also serve Quality Container. FEC was so bought into this operation that they realigned the entire Kendall lead to maximize space here at Quality Container. The connection to the old Kendall branch is represented here. However, on the layout, the track is pretty much dead and defunct, which is also a safety feature so that cars don't come crashing to the walls. However, as a fudge factor, I also have 2 tail tracks coming out here, which will serve future expansions to this very layout. One of the tracks will lead to an auto facility, representing Hialeah's auto ramp, and the other is just going to be the mainline loop, which interestingly crosses Quality's ramp at a curve. The curve is also super elevated, as you might notice, by these hopper cars.
Unfortunately, the Kendall branch has also seen tremendous loss in service, with the service to Florida City and Homestead being cut in 1988, and to South Miami altogether cut in 2007, where there were a few sparsely served customers. However, what has not changed over the last 30 years is the airport loop being used as a storage track. This one FEC yard job grabbed a cut of empty flat cars that were already in place at Quality Container and is hooking onto another cut of flat cars that were sitting on the airport loop for quite some time, taking a shove across Northwest 16th Street in this rare Friday afternoon catch. What continues to amaze me to this day is how this portion of Quality Container looks so similar to Lance Minheim's East Rail layout. This one-of-a-kind operation just feels like the most Miami thing, crisscrossing an intermodal ramp to store cars, and not necessarily flat cars. I've seen auto racks, hoppers, and white top gondolas. And now for an actual revenue move. An FEC yard job shoves a cut of intermodal from Port Miami to Quality Container. Interestingly enough, when this was videotaped, Hurricane Ian had closed much of the railroad down, making this one of the only possible operations on the entire system. And with a simple uncoupling, the 435 completes the job, and that completes our video for now. I look forward to sharing more videos when I can of actual operations in the Commerce Park area, but also very importantly, we'll continue to share updates as the layout continues to develop. And I am really excited with some of the progress that I've made and will be making on the FEC layout. There is a lot more to come, a lot more exciting scenery and action to come forward. If you haven't, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time from Miami, Florida, this is TE out.